Welcome to the Attorney Post, your source for inside baseball talk about the legal field with the top attorneys in the country. Here's your host, Justin West.
All right, hey guys, and welcome back to the Attorney Post, where we discuss what's going on in various facets of the law with lawyers that are at the top of their game. In this particular episode, we are going to do something a little bit different today. We're going to talk with Brooke Moore, who's the founder of MyVirtual.lawyer. MyVirtual.lawyer is kind of changing the way people approach the practice of law. It's doing a lot of things that break the law down in a way that makes it simpler and more accessible for people, as well as more affordable, with a focus on business law. So we'll be talking with Brooke here in just a few minutes. In fact, while we do this, let me show you what her website looks like. This is the website, myvirtual.lawyer. MyVirtual.lawyer. If you go there, this is what you'll see. But before we get started, as always, we are going to have a quick read from one of our sponsors. And our first sponsor is Rocket SEO from hundreds of customers. Are you a business owner who knows that being on page one of Google is important, but who's afraid to work with an SEO company because you know that SEO can be both expensive and slow? Well, not anymore. Rocket SEO from hundreds of customers forces you to page one of Google safely and legally through the power of the news media. National media campaigns can rank instantly, boosting your website's ranking in Google in 1 week or less with a very simple system that leverages the power of major media companies and their network affiliates across the United States to put you on page one of Google in under a week, oftentimes repeatedly on the same page for multiple key phrases. To learn more about this service, visit hundredsofcustomers.com/rocket. That's hundredsofcustomers.com/rocket if you're interested in ranking on page one of Google in under 48 hours. And there's a little video for that. All right, so let's jump back over here and let's say hello to Brooke. How are you doing, Brooke?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks for having me on, Justin.
You are welcome. I'm going to switch us up here to speaker view, and hopefully we'll spend more time looking at you than my ugly mug. There we go. Well, welcome. So Brooke is the founder of MyVirtual.lawyer. And MyVirtual.lawyer is an internationally recognized virtual law firm model. Their shared passion is to make the legal process available to everyone. She works with her partner, Laura O'Brien, and together they offer a limited scope representation or unbundled legal services system at their personal law firm, which allows for clients to benefit from the lower costs and better communications, which I thought was a point that you kept hitting on as well that we're going to talk about. All the while, of course, they train and license other firms so that more lawyers and their clients can benefit from this type of model as well. So I also know that Brooke has a lot of interesting hobbies. I really enjoyed reading her about page on the firm. She does everything from sketching to dance parties. She loves ziplining and bowling. She does skeet shooting. She is a licensed minister, so apparently she can help you with your marriages and your divorces, being an attorney. She loves scary movies. I feel like there was like 5 other things I was going to put in there, but just you seem to be a woman with your hand in many pies. Oh, and I also saw that you do there was counseling that you did, and you're also part of Shift Her. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So, and that's the concept behind that is women helping women in business, I think. So you are busy. You've got your hands in a lot of different pies. So the first question I always ask is, what did I miss?
Oh, yeah. So I do a lot, but I feel like the things that I do are very intentional. I say no to a lot of things also, but they all kind of feed into each other. Overall, my goal is really women's empowerment. Of course, we will work with men too, but
Sure.
but yeah. So even in my law firm, Sun Law Firm, we do have a lot of female clients, and so because really we have a high family law, we do family estate and business law, and we have probably most of our practice is family law. And in divorce, a lot of times, just statistically, the way it ends up, women are a little bit more at a disadvantage than men oftentimes in that process. And so the way we practice law tends to attract more women because of that. And so whether it's helping them in the law firm, helping them learn how to build these fulfilling practices, because a majority of women leave the practice because it's not really designed for women, whether that is because they have children, other obligations, whatever. And then I also Shift Her came from something I was doing with a group of business colleagues of mine that weren't attorneys. And now we created this mindset-centric mastermind model that does help women in business and in life, and provide a community where we can help women kind of develop better relationships with other women and to empower them to kind of move into their own space and do the things. And so in doing all those things, other things come off of that. I do a little bit of heartbreak coaching, which is a
That's
random,
right.
it's not lawyering, but part of what we do as attorneys is counsel. And so I listen to a lot of people, and I've gotten really good at communicating with people and talking to them in a way that they hear. And through my own personal struggles, I'm pretty vulnerable and I share those things. And I've been divorced, I've had relationship issues. And so working through all those things, people have come to me and asked, oh, and how have you gotten from here to here, and the successes that you have? And so I decided, as I do with everything, why don't I monetize this? So now I do that as well.
Interesting. So yeah, you definitely keep yourself busy. That's it. I've talked to multiple family attorneys, and they all say that there's an aspect of psychology that has to go into what they're doing, even if they're not a clinical psychologist. You have to be able to talk with people and interact with them. So it's interesting that you turn that into essentially a side venture where you help women. So we can definitely go back and talk about that a little bit as well. But let's talk about My Virtual Lawyer. I think it's what we're here to mostly get talked about. So how did it get started, and what is the real philosophy behind it?
Right. So when I got started, I actually was about 5 years out of about 5 years out of law school. And I actually burned out relatively quickly, I think, trying to find my way in the legal space. When I was in law school, at the time, my ex-husband is active duty military. And so he was only here maybe one semester of law school. So I was trying to juggle that with 2 kids. And then I had a third kid. I have 3 kids now, but a third kid after law school, right after I took the bar exam. And so trying to navigate all of that was really difficult. And then finding my way, because this job just took so much priority, was very difficult for me to be able to kind of fit into a traditional model. I just always felt like maybe that wasn't right for me. And I looked at different ways that I could practice law. I could be in the nonprofit space, and I would apply for those jobs, and they'd say, well, you're way overqualified. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't know how I underqualify myself, but so I couldn't get in that door. And there were all these closed doors, which ultimately led me down this path of trying all these different things and then learning these skill sets. And then getting to a place where I totally just walked away and I thought, I'm not going to be a lawyer anymore. There's not a place here for me. And then I drove myself crazy trying to find a purpose. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to stop for a minute. I'm going to stop looking for my purpose. I'm going to start trying to serve a purpose and find things that light me up. And then I'm going to find my way, whatever that is, if that's in law or somewhere else. And so I started volunteering at Arkansas Access to Justice, and they were pushing this big initiative for limited scope representation. And about that time, my ex-husband thought we were going to get transferred to Washington, D.C. And I thought, I don't want to take another bar. I don't want to build up another clientele. I have 3 small children. Like, it just didn't make sense for me to do that. I thought, how can I take this with me? So I decided that I wanted to kind of do these limited scope services exclusively as an access to justice movement, for one, because I really wanted to be able to meet my clients where they were a little bit better. And then I also wanted something that was portable. So what ended up coming of that was this practice that was able to serve the whole state. We didn't end up moving, and so we're still in Arkansas, but we were able to serve the whole state. I was able to, better manage my time and manage my family. And so I don't really necessarily believe in work-life balance. I just think it's a lifestyle. So you make these choices in your life and you're doing it all at once. And my work is just a piece of that. And so I was able to really fit work into my lifestyle. And then many years later, I realized, this was in 2014. And then many years later, I realized, oh, what I was doing was, really for well-being. It was a well-being, practice, well-being, initiative. That's what I was doing. I was trying to find something that met my lifestyle and also was fulfilling for me and helping clients. So essentially now I know in retrospect that this was this was all created for the well-being of myself and my clients.
You sound like the quintessential entrepreneur, and as somebody who's traveled that exact same path, and I've got 5 kids, I totally am utterly sympathetic to everything that you went through. So 100% there. So what's the advantage then of being virtual to the client, right? And are there advantages over in-person, face-to-face consultation? And of course, in-person face-to-face consultations becoming a lot more rare in the era of the COVID pandemic. So a corollary question would be, has this pandemic made it easier for people to understand what you do, or is it just kind of ancillary to what you're doing?
Yeah, I do think that it's made it easier, but it's made it easier for attorneys to understand the concept, not necessarily clients, because I've been doing this for over 6 years now. And clients love it. It never was a problem for clients. We're a little bit behind as a profession. So clients were used to interacting with their service providers online already. They were used to having, medical appointments online and just all sorts of things online. And yeah, I really felt like it was almost a push and a movement from clients. But attorneys were a little bit resistant prior to COVID to actually adopting these technology tools. They didn't necessarily trust them. They thought, clients are only going to want to work with us this way. This is the only way. And so I got a lot of pushback early on, like, clients are going to want to do that. Well, the reason clients want to do it is because it's convenient for them. They have the same work schedule typically as we do.
Yeah.
And so they have to take off work. They have to come downtown. They have to find your office. They have to park, whatever. They have to do all those things just to come and have a consultation with you, and may or may not hire you, whatever. And so it's really inconvenient for them, for one. But also, you can be more transparent. You can be more available without actually being available, because a lot of attorneys are like, oh, I don't want to be that accessible to clients. But we set really good boundaries and have technology tools that help us with those boundaries. So that way, we have a messaging tool in our client portal. If they need to, we have people sometimes that will be mad because on a Friday night, their spouse was 5 minutes late dropping the kid off or something like that. And so we're not necessarily going to respond to that, but they're not blowing up our phone. They're not sending us a bunch of emails. They're going in the portal. They're saying all the things. They're getting it out, releasing it, going about their weekend. They know that they've said it to us. And then we've managed those expectations, because that's really important. We've managed those expectations, and they know, okay, Monday they'll hear from us, whatever, or they won't if they don't really need to. And so it's really providing that space. So the clients have that access, but you don't necessarily have to be on all the time. You really teach your clients how to interact with you. So that's very helpful. And having the convenience, having all the things there together. We have documents that we've shared with them that they've shared with us. They can go into their portal and they can see all those things. And so they're not constantly emailing or calling or trying to figure out where you're at in the case. It really saves you the headache of having to do that back and forth also. Or they're not scared to pick up the phone and call me because they're afraid that I'm going to charge them $150 for a phone call, when they don't know what they need, or they're just following up to ask about a document. Or they're, then I'm better off, because if something happens, I want to know. I don't want them to think this happened, it's pertinent to the case, but I'm not saying anything because they're going to charge me $150 to call or send this. So it really is beneficial to the client and also to the attorney.
Interesting. I talked to an attorney the other day, and I talk to attorneys all the time. And we've been talking a lot about COVID and how it affects the law practice. And I think there's definitely a lot of avenues where it's streamlining things in a good way. And this seems to be one of those. I do think the one way he said that he thought it was a bad idea was the idea of the virtual courtroom. He says there's this very, very different when you can look, a juror in the eye, you can read their body language, you can give them a glance when somebody says something and it's a knowing glance or whatnot. So I do think there's probably some areas where the totally virtual model maybe doesn't work yet, but I think for a lot of things it really does. So what are the primary services that you guys offer there at myvirtual.lawyer?
Yeah, so we do family, estate, and business law, where estate law, basic wills, trusts, powers of attorneys. In business law, we do formation, contracts, internal employment documents, things like that. So that part really doesn't look that different, because people are used to hiring an attorney to do a will, so it doesn't look different. But where it looks different for us is that we do pro se assisted family law. So it is litigation based. Obviously, it is not a good fit for everybody. We screen them heavily. We manage expectations. But our motto really is that providing some quality legal assistance is better than none. So sometimes that's all people afford. Sometimes people just forego their rights completely because they are intimidated or they can't afford it. And so that's really where it looks different for us. So there is a litigation component. And like you said, I do totally agree that not all things will probably carry on after the pandemic. I do think the pandemic allowed things to escalate along faster. We were sitting, as attorneys, we like to talk about things. We're sitting around our little tables, we should do this. This is blah, 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 future of law. And we don't get a lot of movement on it, just a lot of chatter. And one thing specifically here in our jurisdiction is that e-notaries were not a thing. They were not allowed at all. So whenever the pandemic hit, they said, all right, we're going to allow this. And that's something I believe that's going to stick. And so now I talked to someone the other day who provides wills for missionaries who are Arkansas residents, but they're not necessarily here in the state. And so he said, I don't know how to do this. Well, now if you have this e-notary and you use Zoom, and here's how you set it all up. And so there are definitely some benefits, I think, moving forward. But for us, we just find ways. We could do limited appearances. We don't, because we serve the whole state and we don't want to. But yeah, there's certainly creative ways, even in litigation, to at least be partially virtual.
Gotcha. How many, you guys are in 4 states right now, is that correct?
We are in Arkansas, Texas, and Florida, and our Alabama attorney is about to retire. So
oh, okay.
We'll be losing Alabama, but yeah, currently we're in those 3 states.
So any attorneys who are listening to this and happen to be in Alabama, there may be an opening, just saying. We'll actually come back to that thought in a few minutes, because I do want to know how you find new partners and what that process tends to look like. But so let's talk more about this from a client side perspective. What, for me, other than the ease of getting a hold of you, what does unbundling and limited scope representation do for me, maybe even on a financial basis? Is this more of a flat fee sort of a service? Am I going to know going into this, this is what I'm going to pay? And how does working at that kind of a rate, does that affect your profitability? Does it mean you make less, or does it actually mean you make more, because while you make less on a per client basis, you can help more clients? Does that make sense?
It makes sense. Yeah, so limited scope representation, for people who don't know, and I'm always surprised, I'll talk to law students even that are coming out of law school and they don't know, and I'm like, what? Where are they teaching you this? But limited scope, unbundled legal services, whatever you want to call it, is essentially when an attorney is helping with the legal part of your case, some or all of it, depending on what it is. And then the client is actually handling the administrative tasks, obviously with your expertise and advising them on, what to do, where, and take it, whatever, how to execute documents, things like that. So for us, a big draw for clients, like you said, is that, beyond the convenience, is that we're able to be transparent practicing this way. So we do have all of our routine services, like the pricing, at least a starting price, listed on our website. They know up front what they're going to pay, and we do offer payment plans. So if you're doing something a la carte, say a divorce, this is how much your divorce is going to be. Here's some ancillary costs you may incur, and let's work with you. I mean, obviously we don't go to like $10 a week, but we will work with you on a payment plan, so that way it is, feasible for you, but also profitable for us and worth our time. But because of that, clients are able to anticipate the cost of their legal services because of the way we practice. So it's very helpful. It's very attractive to clients. And for us, I will say it's been over 6 years since we've been doing it this way. We don't take cash. We don't take checks. Everybody, they will figure it out. I know people think, oh, what about this and that? Sometimes people are just not your client, but most people will go. I mean, we've had people get prepaid cards. People will figure it out.
Yeah.
We only take credit card or debit because we do auto draft. So if you're on a payment plan, the only way to be on a payment plan if it's an auto draft. So in over 6 years that we've been doing this, we have collected 100% of our fees, which was a stark contrast to when I was practicing traditionally and billing by the hour. And in law school, I remember we had a professor that had been a practitioner before, and she said, when you're setting your fees, because I don't talk to you about this much, but she said, when you're setting your fees, make sure that your retainer is high enough that you'll be comfortable doing the rest of the work for free, because that's probably all you're going to get, which is what I found to be pretty much true when I started practicing. So, but doing it this way, being transparent, making the payment plans easy for them, letting them know up front the cost or what, ancillary things, has been super beneficial in managing those expectations so that they're satisfied, but they can also make the payments. And for us, as far as, profitability, back when I was practicing traditionally, billing by the hour, I might take a $1,500 retainer for a divorce, and I make $1,500. I'm on this case for a year, and I'm billing these people, and I can't get off this case, and they're not paying me. And so I've spent hours and hours and hours working on this case with this client for $1,500. The way we do it now, if we charge $1,500 for a divorce, and we have it automated from all the way from the intake piece to the, getting the questionnaire out, getting the information from them, automating our templates. Laura does our family law now, but she spends maybe 2 hours, and that's in big part counseling the client a little bit, maybe 2 hours, maybe, on divorce work. And we've made $1,500 for 2 hours. So essentially, when we're profitable, like I said, we collected all of it. And then we can along and help more people. And so one of the dangers sometimes I caution, because people think that's great, let me just add unbundled in. People tend to go where the money flows. And so if they think this case is going to pay me $15,000 and this is 1,500, sometimes you're not paying as much attention to that. But if you can really automate that process, it's worthwhile to add some kind of a limited scope virtual component to your practice.
Gotcha. That's interesting. That's really kind of neat. I'm familiar with the concept of unbundling in a sense. I think I mentioned this very briefly. I know there's services out there that you pay like a monthly fee for, and you can get access to an attorney for some very limited scope things like consultation and get your will done and a few other things. I've used the service for years. I won't name drop it here, but they've kept points off my license, and that's probably the main reason I've used the service. Is I don't have a lead foot, and my foot has gotten a lot less lighter as I've aged, or a lot lighter as I've aged. But they've definitely helped me with that. But this definitely strikes me as a very practical way to approach the law. And I think it makes it much more accessible. I've said this for years, and I'm probably not the one that coined the phrase, but, if you can't, I'm going to biff my own phrase now. If you can't afford justice, you don't get justice. And justice shouldn't be colorblind except for the color green, right? And so making justice far more practically accessible to people strikes me as a very, very noble pursuit. It makes it far easier to get access to the law, because of course, without access to the law, you don't have knowledge. If you don't know the law, you don't know the law, and you can't be the beneficiary of it. But you can be harmed by it. In fact, if you don't know the law, you're far more likely to be harmed by the law than you are to be benefited by the law. But if you know it and you have someone there to kind of guide you through it, that does a lot. So that's great. So what gives you guys, are there other, it sounds like there's obviously other people out there that are practicing something similar to this. Is there something about what you guys are doing there in particular at myvirtual.lawyer that gives you a competitive edge over your competitors?
Right. So, I mean, yeah, obviously there are people that provide limited scope services. There are people that have virtual practices. The bulk of those that I've found, and I know a lot of those people in that world, are transactional practices. So for us, we do some of the litigation-based stuff, which is different than what a lot of people are doing. The pro se assistance is different. And also, there are plenty of reputable, good, and I'm not anti non-lawyer legal service providers at all. I actually champion the cause because I feel like that's going to make it better for all of us. But, there are plenty of providers out there, but they don't have our expertise. And the disconnect is clients don't necessarily know that. Like, we know our value. They don't necessarily know that. So if you can show them how you're different. So for us, a lot of times people will ask us about some of these providers, and we'll say, well, the difference is, you're going to go to them. You have to know already what you need. And then you're going to go through it yourself. You don't even answer questions. Of course, you can pay somebody who's going to get a little flat fee, and then they can maybe advise you a little bit in your state. And then you go about your business. You don't really know what to do with the documents. So for us, it was really important that, automation is important, legal technology is important, but that there's still that personable aspect of the business. We're still a law firm. We're still in the business of people. And so you get to talk to us up front, and we're going to tell you what you need. One of the things that's really common that we hear, for instance, is we have grandparents sometimes that want custody. Well, no, you don't. You need a guardianship. But if you go to one of these other places online and just fill out a form and you try to take it, they're going to be like, what is this? You don't want custody, this is what you want. So they don't know what they don't know. And then we have people who maybe, another really common one is people will go and they have kids and they'll get a really detailed, pretty decent, like jurisdiction specific custody plan maybe, but they don't realize that that's only part of your decree or part of whatever that you're trying to fill out. Here's all the 5 documents you need before that. You go here and do this and that. And then they go to court and they just get turned away. Well, the judge can't overstep their bounds and tell them why. They have to treat them like they're an attorney. So you have to leave, and then they're confused. And they come to us. And so then they end up paying us to look at this and basically do all of it for what they went and spent on that. So there are definitely cautionary tales and definitely areas where having an actual attorney is very beneficial to help you kind of get through that process seamlessly.
Gotcha. So are there clients that work with you that you've never met in person, or do you wind up meeting all your clients in person? Is it some of them are just, Zoom relationships, or how does that play out?
Primarily, every relationship we have is virtual. We rarely meet people in person. I would say I might be the exception a little bit because I'm our business lawyer. And so some of those relationships, we do offer subscriptions. Some of those relationships are local. So if they're here, I might grab a coffee with them to kind of build up that relationship, but that's more of a networking play.
Yeah.
Business. So it's not necessarily, even if we are talking about their business a little bit. And part of that is because, we really want to make sure to be efficient and to protect our time, because we also want time for self-care and the things we're interested in, and the holistic life I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
So I don't want to set a precedent that, okay, if you want coffee, we'll go meet there and I'll have an hour here and then 30 minutes on this call. So we really want to streamline business and keep business. And then if there's another mutually beneficial relationship outside of that, let's see how that works.
That makes sense. And that's kind of neat. The fact that we're really becoming, I've hardly met any of my clients because the nature of what I do is very, very digital, but it's kind of neat to see how that does translate over into the modern legal world. So what would you say in this process, again, as somebody who seems to be a serial entrepreneur, who has a real knack for business, what do you think your biggest accomplishment so far has been in this process?
I think maybe overcoming the mindset that I am supposed to practice law one way. That's really important to me, because I drove myself to a place when I hit burnout. I mean, I burned out. I was checking all the boxes, doing all the things that we're told we're supposed to do as lawyers, taking this path, this certain direction. And in doing so, not only was I just tired and burned out and couldn't make it all work, but my health suffered. I had gained like 60 pounds. I ended up, which I am 4'11". Like, you can't gain that kind of weight when you're you just can't. It doesn't work. And then you're very tired all the time. And my doctor couldn't figure out things that were wrong with me. And he's like, too young to feel this way. I was hospitalized 3 times for stroke level blood pressure, because I just really feel like, the profession is designed one way, but we don't all have to fit in that box. And so once I came to the realization that self-care is not selfish, and, even if people are turning their noses up at me, which they did when I started, they were, is this a hobby? Like, yeah, I'm starting a virtual law firm as a hobby. Who does that? But like, is this a hobby? Is this, people, this is not going to work. I don't get it. Like, these were not clients, by the way, which is who I care about.
Yeah.
Other attorneys. So, just, there were so many people telling me that it wasn't going to work, that it wasn't practical, that clients want things a certain way. Clients don't know. Most clients haven't ever worked with an attorney. You tell them how to work with you. But yeah, I think really pushing past that and not quitting, even though I kept running up against roadblocks, changing the rules here. We've done a really good job getting a lot of the rules changed to do limited scope, and really explaining and educating people here, and really setting setting a model up for success, and showing people that is something that you can do, that you can still have this, lifestyle. You can still enjoy your family and your career. You don't have to choose. You can just create it, and it can look different from everything you've ever been told. So I think for me, I was very much a people pleaser for all my life, and just very streamlined A-type personality. And I think bursting out of that and realizing that supposed to's are just bullshit and just going forward, I think has really probably been, that mindset shift has probably been my biggest success personally.
Makes sense. So, corollary question to that, I'm sure you've had a number of times when things didn't go well. Maybe a couple of times you failed. We all fail here and there. What would you say is one of your bigger fail moments that you don't mind sharing, and what did you learn from that?
Yeah. So for me, I don't really like to use the word failure, because I feel like everything happens the way it's supposed to happen. And so it's a lesson. So if something doesn't work for me, or it's not aligned with what I'm doing, for me, I'm like, what am I supposed to be learning here? But really, one of the things for us was when we launched our attorney model. Again, we just kind of made it up, and it was kind of out of interest. We had so much time in the day, and I couldn't keep having free Zoom calls with people. So how can we package this up and bring people on board, and really, move us forward and grow this nationally? What does this look like? But we have gone through about 3 iterations of that. The first one, if you want to say failed, it failed miserably. And I learned lots of lessons out of our first iteration. But we still have those relationships, and we were really good about getting feedback from the people who were working with us, because we wanted to make sure that we were providing value. So I think it's important that even in those moments, that you don't quit, that you don't just think, okay, well, this is not, if you feel lit up to do something, if you feel driven or pushed or called to do something, figure out how it works, and don't be afraid to change it. I've done that with prices. I've changed prices like 3 times on my website, and people are like, "Oh, you can't do that." Well, I do, and nobody goes back and like, May of 2017, your price was this. Nobody does that to me. So you can do whatever you want to do, people. So yeah, I think for me, it's just learning, when those moments happen, when something's not working, take a step back, take feedback, and pivot and try something, throw it out there. If it doesn't work, And so for me, that's just kind of, well, Laura and I both are like, well, if it doesn't say we can't do it, we're going to do it and see what happens. So that's kind of
better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Exactly. If I can explain to you why I did it and why it's okay, then I feel pretty confident in what I'm doing. But yeah, it's just, and again, our new model really this year, we took last year and didn't even really market it because we wanted to make sure that we were creating something, because we just had not gotten it right yet. So for me, definitely the first couple times it was really felt like failure. But it really was a lesson in this is where the legal space needs you. This is where you need to be and how you need to be helping attorneys, and also better protecting your time. So it's getting me where I need to go.
That makes sense. Well, it sounds like you've really hit your stride in a sense over the last 6 years. You really kind of found your niche. How big do you think this will get? Do you think that you're going to wind up the head of a 50 state organization? Do you think you guys are going to stay more or less local to the areas that you're in? What are your plans moving forward?
Yeah. So our goal really, for the law firm, because again, there's the law firm and then there's the partner firm business. So for our law firm, we're steady growing every year. Our goal really isn't to add a whole bunch of people. Our goal really is to be more efficient. So whether that's technology, and just not necessarily being in all the different things. So our goal really is not to grow big, it's to grow more efficient and be more visible here. As far as the brand overall, we would love, like our goal, we do not limit to just one person per state, because essentially it's a consulting service. And for us, we feel like the more people that are doing limited scope and virtual the right way, the better it is for everybody. So our goal really is to have this collaborative community that's helping to bring awareness to limited scope as a mainstream viable option for clients, and virtual as a true lifestyle law firm that is practical, sustainable, and also profitable. And so we would love to just blow it up everywhere. We get so excited. We've sold our course internationally twice, so we were like super excited when that happened. But really, right now we're focused on nationally growing and becoming as big as we can be. The moderate income individuals are the base of legal clients out there. And so if we can all kind of figure out, I guess one of my pet peeves is we have a bunch of these, for instance, women run movements here in Arkansas. So it's like all these different organizations that want to encourage women to run for office, which is fantastic. The problem is, like, this one wants to be bigger and badder than this one, and this one wants to be the one that gets all this funding. But what's happening is you're like diluting the cause, you're diluting the funding, you're diluting it to all these different places. But if you would just come together, and work together, you could just be this collaborative giant, really pushing the initiative forward. And so for me, I feel like that's sometimes the way it is in the legal world. We're very competitive. We're kind of trained to be that way. And it's, okay, well, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do this competing, and we're going to try to do this. And I really feel like there's enough pie for everybody to go around. And if we all get in and pull the resources and get the word out and educate and do the things, that we could all grow together and we could all have a very profitable, fulfilling law firm. And so that's really our long-term goal, is to just blow it up here as big as it can be.
Gotcha. So 50 years from now, 100 years from now, do you think that this unbundled model is going to be like super common? Like, is this what most law firms are going to look like? Or do you think, at least in certain niches, that's how it's going to go? Is this the future?
I think it's the present, but also think,
well, yeah, that's fair.
Definitely in the future. There are definitely spots for more traditional practicing. It may need to look a little bit different, whether that's providing some services online or offering more transparent pricing, whatever. I do think there are some concessions that are going to have to be made in a more traditional practice, but I do think there are certain spaces that are always going to kind of require that. There are going to be people probably that require that, but I think as time goes on, we're going to have to, because there are these, non-attorney legal service providers, and regardless of what we think about them, they're capturing a big part of our market. And if we don't step up, we're going to lose those people. And so if we want to keep graduating attorneys and actually having jobs for them to roll into to pay off their student loan debt, then we're going to have to think how we can practice differently, in a way that's profitable, but also, people that are coming up are expecting a lifestyle. They're expecting to be able to, work and live, because there are these efficiency tools out there. And a lot of people that are younger, really are proficient in these things. And so the way that it's always been done might be fine for partners who are retiring out, but looking out 50 years, we're going to have to do it not only to keep, attract and keep quality talent. We're also going to have to do it to be able to be competitive against non-attorney legal service providers in the legal market.
Gotcha. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I think, with a newer generation of people that are far more tech savvy, I think they're calling this the Generation C, right? Generation COVID. Everyone has gotten so used to, doing stuff online. I've got 5 kids and 4 of them are in school. So they all have spent a lot of time on Zoom. They were actually for a while better at Zoom than I am. And I do this professionally, but they know all the little tricks and the secrets and the tips and whatnot. So yeah, I think it does make a lot of sense to adjust your model moving forward, for firms to adjust their model towards the model that you're doing. So if people want to work with you, if they want to be a part of what it is that you're doing, you said you sell a course, but you also seem to work with other law firms. So how do you work with other law firms? What's the process of them either learning your talent stack that you offer, learning your course that you do, or becoming a part of what you're doing there with myvirtual.lawyer?
Sure. So right now we have one on-demand course, and it's just how to build a virtual law firm. We did it live all last year. It was a 5-week course, and now we've just turned it into our library, and it's an on-demand course. We have a limited scope representation course that we're working on right now. So we're kind of adding those things as we go that are kind of on demand if that's only what people need. But also, we have a membership program, which is essentially what I was talking about earlier. People will get on our calendar. Laura and I have a joint calendar. You can find it on our MVL for Attorneys page on our website. And we usually do a 30-minute call just to kind of talk about what it is we do, see if the person is a good fit for the membership, figure out what their goals are, how we can help them. And then, and our courses are all free to our members as well. But part of it is really us helping them choose their technology. If they've already got technology, figuring out how to use it best. We have workflows that are proven effective for us that we share for different practice areas. We really try to customize the experience. And then we have a quarterly mastermind. We keep in touch in between because it's a 1-year commitment and you can renew it obviously, but we have quarterly masterminds where we all can come together and brainstorm and share ideas. We have a private community where we can also do that. Hey, I'm having this experience. Is this something you're dealing with? Has anyone dealt with this before? What kind of strategies do you have for XYZ? So we really try to cover everything that we've done so people don't have to start from scratch in building their practice. And a lot of people have just kind of haphazardly had to move in the past year to virtual and maybe want to offer some of these things because they see that this is something they want to continue on. But what has happened, and we've had these people come to us and say, well, I've done this and had these things, but I did it quickly. So I don't really know full functionality. I don't know if this is the best tool to use. I don't really have good workflows. So it really is just helping people get organized, ongoing, and then having support and having that community of other virtual lawyers to help you brainstorm and workshop different issues as they come along.
That's fascinating. So I have pulled up right now just so people can see. This is your website. Again, myvirtual.lawyer. You guys have a couple of videos on there. I actually watched some of your videos. And I've seen you, Brooke, do a lot of podcasts as well. I saw you on a number of different podcasts. And in fact, I might use that as my segue here in a minute because I happen to know your favorite movie is it 50 First Dates from the Shrimp Tank podcast. So I did a little bit of research before this. But in a few minutes here, we're just going to kind of get to know you a little bit better and ask some more just internal questions. What I might do is while I've got your site up here, we'll go ahead and do our second ad read as well. And then we'll come back and figure out who are some of the people that have influenced you the most and maybe even learn what your favorite book is. So stay tuned for that for just a minute. But first, we're going to jump over here to injuryattorneyleads.com. Personal injury attorneys spend a lot of time and money advertising, but it's difficult to get qualified leads. You're paying for leads that are not qualified, or worse, you're getting leads from the internet that are no longer interested in talking to an attorney. That's if you ever even get a hold of them at all. These leads can average on the low end $99 a lead and on the high end over $500 a lead. And you can burn through 5 to 10 of those just to get a serious prospective client on the phone. The solution is injuryattorneyleads.com. InjuryAttorneyLeads.com will live transfer people directly to your law firm who have been in an accident and who want to talk to a lawyer about their case. You can be sure that these potential clients meet your criteria for a qualified lead, and the close rates average 60%. Set up a time to speak with a client generation specialist by visiting InjuryAttorneyLeads.com and scheduling a time to talk. That's InjuryAttorneyLeads.com and click on any of the buttons that will lead you to schedule a time to talk. All righty, we'll come back over here, and you're still playing myvirtuallawyer.com. So we'll go back and just look at you now. There we go. So let's just be a little more personal here. I really like what you're doing. I really like your model a lot. I do think this is kind of where a lot of businesses are going, and I think that COVID definitely accelerated it quite a bit. What people in this process have really influenced you in what you're doing? Who put the idea in your head that this is really what you should be doing? Or was it just yourself? And who are the people in general that have maybe the 3 most influential people in your life?
Yeah, so originally I got a lot of support locally when I didn't have a lot of support locally from Arkansas Access to Justice. And she's now a judge, but Judge Amy Dunn Johnson was really the person that encouraged me when I came up with the idea. I didn't really have anything to go by, so I would piecemeal how to do virtual things, and I would read different books on using technology, not just in law practice but in business, because I mean, I really am a serial entrepreneur. For me, it's a business first. They're consumers first, and then okay, it's a law firm, and this is how it functions. So,
Mhm.
but she very early on, if I had a judge here that was bothering me, I could message her and be like, "Oh my gosh, they just made me go to court for no reason." And so we would, share notes, and she would share resources. So she really was very encouraging that this was a good idea to keep with it. So probably. She would probably be the first one that kind of helped me go down this path. Then when I got really involved the uh, in the practice of being virtual and looking for resources, I ended up going and getting really involved with the American Bar Association. And specifically the law practice division. And so one of my first big speaking events, which I'm co-chair for 2022, but back to 2017, I just started going to it, was TechSHOW, and I met Jim Calloway in 2018. He was the first person that I spoke with, and he has been a big proponent. He really he invited me to Oklahoma, had me speak for their conference there. He's the practice management for the Oklahoma bar, and he's just really been my cheerleader all along. He kind of showed me the ropes through the law practice division, the ABA. He's really good about making connections. So he has been somebody who's been a staple and a mentor for me as well. And he's very fluent in all technology and a proponent of limited scope. And he asks the hard questions, and it's really great. And then I have 2. I don't know. You said 3, but I kind of have a couple. I'll give a shout out to Heidi Alexander. She is an amazing example in the legal world of women helping one another, pulling someone behind up, really collaboration over competition, I like to say. And then I'm going to say a 4th one, even though you didn't ask. But
Oh, it's fine.
my business partner in Shift Her, I have 3, but Gretchen Jackson and I, we met several years ago. She had a parent-led 5th grade trip, and her son's a year older than my oldest son, and she needs somebody to dump it on, so she passed it to me, and then I got all the boxes. Crap, and I was like, this girl's a lot. And this is my first interaction with her. And I'm like, I don't know if I love her or hate her now that I'm taking over this trip because it's a nightmare. But I survived that. We became close. She invited me in a networking group, really kind of got me into that world. I was early in my business. So it helped me make some really valuable connections here. But everything from like dieting to the workout that we do, everything that we've done has just kind of been parallel to one another. And then there was a meeting we had just having coffee, and that kind of sent us into this self-development mindset work that really just changed everything for me in business and in life, and kind of went down that road together. So she's always been really inspirational to me and like a big sister to me, and we've done a lot of things parallel and together. So she's definitely somebody who's inspired me, and she's there, every day. We work together now, so she's there with me daily.
Gotcha. So I was actually looking at my shelf next to me here. I have it's just out of reach because I have a standing desk, so I can't reach them. But I have a bunch of books that I like to read a lot of business books. I was going to pick your brain about one more thing, and it's because you're a serial entrepreneur. I suspect you take in a lot of information. You're an attorney. You have to read. I'm sure you read really well. There goes everything. What book or books have been the most influential to you in starting your own practice, starting your own business, starting up myvirtual.lawyer? What thought leaders do you recommend people follow?
Stephanie Kimbrough has a lot of books on virtual practice, limited scope. She was ahead of her time, which I think is really unfortunate, because she really was a wealth of knowledge, and the things that I'm doing now were definitely inspired by a lot of the work that she did early on. But there was so much resistance at the time that she came to it that it was really hard to get it going. But she's written several books. I think the ones that I've read, I think, are published through the American Bar Association, but that's a great place to start. And I think she's updated them as well. And so those books specifically in business, but for me, I'm way into the self-development stuff. I like one of the main way actually our shifter business started was we all read You Are a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero. So that really got us all motivated into it. But it's really talks about how your relationship with money is fundamental, and it's the relationship that all of the relationships kind of build off of or resemble. So it's a very interesting concept, and really kind of propelled me into the self-development mindset work. And there's another book too, and it's very sciencey because I like the sciencey ones. It's called Happy Pocket Full of Money. It's very similar, but it is very, very sciencey, and it goes into like the quantum physics of things. But for me, I think kind of the combination of all that, my all-time favorite book would be Reality Unveiled, which I read with a friend, and it is equal parts sciencey mindset stuff. So it really talks about, and when I say mindset, some people are like, whoa, well-being mindset, but really it's boundaries, it's time management, it's self-care, it's all those things, and those things are but
there's healthy attitudes that people bring into business, and there's unhealthy attitudes that people bring into business, and sometimes you really do have to sort through those. So that's a good thing.
And I really like to understand why things work, how they work. And so it's part experiment, this book. So a little bit of it is how quantum physics kind of work in your reality. And the other part is a little bit about aliens, which I'm nerd out. And I'm also a paranormal investigator, which you and I talked about in my free time for fun. But so I like it because it's got the sciencey and it's got the mindset, but there's also a little bit of alien stuff in it. So
Alien. So
yes.
that ancient aliens guy is my favorite meme. Well, that's some good stuff. Well, Brooke, this has been a really good conversation. I feel like I know a lot more about your business than I did in, I did like an hour and a half of research on you just to kind of get a sense of what's going on. And even still, like, I feel like I learned a lot. I think you got a good head on your shoulders, and I really like what you're doing there. I know we have a hard stop coming up. We think we both have kids to pick up at school and everything else, so we can go ahead and wrap this up here. But before we do that, do you have any parting thoughts or parting words that you'd like to leave our listeners? And also, if they want to get a hold of you, what's the best place for them to find you, other than, of course, your website?
Right. So, parting words really is just give yourself permission to design your practice, your life in a way that makes sense for you, and then just do it. And if it doesn't work, figure out what didn't work and keep following the path that you want to be on, and you'll end up there. Also, reach out and ask people for help, because I've done that all along the way. I know sometimes we don't want to do that because I had a law student that reached out to me recently, and I really appreciated her candor, because she just said, well, my first question for you is, I'm fixing to graduate law school, and how do I learn how to practice law? Nobody knows. That's the secret. Nobody knows. We figure it out. And I was just like, you ask people, you Google, and then you put all that stuff together, and then, you know, you explain to your client. So I was telling her like ways to go about it so you can research and you don't look stupid in front of your client. But, you know, that really is a secret nobody knows, and nobody knows any of these things. So just keep going and ask others if you need help and piece it all together. If you want to reach out, like I said, myvirtual.lawyer is our website, and you can go on there. We have an attorney page where you can sign up to talk to Laura and myself. If you want to email me, it's just Brooke, BROOKE @myvirtual.lawyer. You can shoot me an email. I'm at Virtual Law Girl on Twitter, and then we're myvirtual.lawyer all the other places.
Awesome. And below this video and below this podcast, we'll have links to your website. We can include the Twitter and everything else in there as well, so people can have a good way of finding you. But if they're just listening, that's definitely how they can find you as well. Well, Brooke, thank you very much for taking this time with me today. I really, again, have enjoyed this conversation a lot. I like your practice a lot. I like what you're doing, and hopefully keep in touch with you and check in, because I think that you're going lots of great places. So I want to thank you very much. And for everyone listening, again, this is the Attorney Post. We are bringing you cutting edge in legal technology, and I think this unbundling thing is going to be huge in the future. I think it's huge right now. I think everyone's really experienced it, especially in the wake of the pandemic. So, Brooke, I think you're one of the people to really kind of keep an eye on, probably a thought leader. So, well, thank you guys very much for listening to the podcast. As always, you can find us at theattorneypost.com. And until next time, I'm your host, Justin West. Have a good life. Bye-bye.